this week there was news and something of a, oh, I don't know, social backlash, if you like, in the Canterbury region to do with the latest released prices, which suggests that next year season ticket holders, but also those attending the Canterbury Crusaders games, and I presume the new stadium, which I think is going to be open in April or May of next year, are going to be 40% higher than they've been paid for this year. And that's caused something of a backlash about taking rugby out of the pockets of ordinary Kiwis and families, just going to a simple rugby game. And it is bloody expensive, can I say already? 40% more, gosh, that is really expensive. And really, you've got to be seriously upper middle class to go to a rugby test and take your kids these days, because or you've got to save for months on end, because that's extraordinary to follow the All Blacks. Now, there are wealthy and upper income people in this country who can afford to do so, but equally there are lots of people who can't. Well, somebody who's up in arms about that, and has been for some time, about the corporate nature of rugby, is one of New Zealand's great sporting legends. In fact, he not only, but it's not in that capacity that I'm talking to him, it's in the capacity that he used to be the chairman, I think, and died in the war contabrium, and chairman or president of the Canterbury Rugby Supporters Association. But you will know him as the man who won the gold medal at the Commonwealth Games at Christchurch, in actual fact, and what I guess became his home stadium, QE2 Stadium, Dick Tayler, and he joins us now. Dick, it's a great pleasure to have you on the show again. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good chance to be on the show. And I enjoyed that your last comments about the rumour has it, and you've heard it, I've heard it, and all sorts of people, different rumours about different people. But yeah, it's one of those things that, of course, social media makes, as you well know, makes it worse nowadays.
Yeah.
It's rather sad in some ways, but it's society today, isn't it?
Well, it's just that there've always been rumours, as you and I know, Dick. I'm sure you had rumours about yourself in your peak of your athletic days, etc. But it's just that they're amplified on social media. But I always think it's amazing that they're believed. You know, like, I just tell you this, and you're going to instantly believe it. It doesn't say much for the intelligence of the human race, does it? Really?
Not really, no. People are people, and we've all been brought up to have respect of people and look up to older people and please and thank you and all that sort of stuff. And, if you haven't got the right information about someone, you go and check it with them first. So you don't start burbling to anyone else about it, which it could be wrong. So, it's sad. Social media's doing that today.
I agree. Listen, can I ask you, first of all, I introduced you, as you know, as not just one of our leading athletes, but also as the president of the Canterbury Rugby Supporters Association. And now there are these significant ticket prices hikes for next year. Dick, why, A, is the first place, so we don't really understand, the rest of us, and B, does that make it harder for ordinary people to go and watch their preferred team?
Yeah, it's interesting, Michael, because you and I come through a generation where we went and watched the bank on Carriage on the bank, Lancaster Park on the bank. It wasn't expensive to get seats in the stand. There was no virtually corporate boxes those days. So it's pretty simple. And you all know, and I know, like Canterbury Supporters Club, we had room for 800 people under the stand at Lancaster Park. I can remember going to Supporters Club at Carrisbrook, the Targa Supporters Club, the Targa referees, all had big crowds in their rooms. And people hadn't paid a fortune to get into the ground, but they could go and rub shoulders with some of the top Otago players, All Black players, whatever, on Canterbury Supporters Club, and meet Canterbury people, Crusaders people, and people who supported rugby right throughout the world. So it was all simple, and Supporters Club were big. There's only one in the South Island. The Southland Supporters Club is still going very well, thanks to the Southland Rugby Union. They've got facilities on the ground, the rugby park, and they still make money and give it back to rugby, and Southland Supporters Club still have a good time at the ground. But, it's changed, and Wellington, when they built the new stadium, prices went up. But I spoke to a guy yesterday. He said, they got up, but they spoke to all the ticket holders to be and said, we don't want to rob you. So they reached an agreement that they're going to put it up a wee bit every 2 or 3 years. And then, of course, Dunedin with the new stadium, a lot of things got lost there. And I just feel sad with Christchurch. I don't, going up 40% is a wee bit mean. And apparently the corporate box is just through the roof. If you want to have, your company wants to have a corporate box. So I don't mind all that sort of thing, but I think it's part and parcel of what's happening in sport, and that the professional areas come along, players are getting paid, but I got no problem with that. And you look at Super Rugby, there's no Super Rugby club in New Zealand or anywhere that's made any money. So it's not easy out there for Super Rugby clubs.
But I guess that's why they're putting up ticket prices 40%, are they? Because they're seeing people who might be attracted to the new Canterbury Stadium prepared that just to have a unique or a new experience, yeah?
And I that's where I totally agree. And I spoke to a guy in Wellington, and he said if I didn't have a corporate business, I wouldn't be able to afford to go to Wellington and watch a lot of games. But because my company was paying for that, and a lot of people who getting tickets and doing corporate boxes here in Christchurch, their company will be paying for it. I got no problem with that. And you haven't got a problem with it either. But it's just a fact of life where corporates versus Joe Blogs. And sorry, Joe Blogs, you better save up and buy a giant TV and put on the wall here, lounge. And that's the way it is nowadays.
Can I ask you, as a Canterbury Rugby supporter, as previous chairman of the supporters club, etc., is there? I assume there's a fair bit of excitement about Canterbury having its own indoor stadium.
Oh, very much so, and I think people outside of Canterbury as well. I remember I wasn't going to be president of the Canterbury Supporters Club, but Billy Bush was the president, and Billy was asked to go in the Canterbury Rugby Union. So I was in the Supporters Club one night, and Billy said, Dick, do you want to be president of the Canterbury Supporters Club? I said, I'm not even a member. So I'll fix that up. He said, I'll get you a Mary loan and you'll become president. and I've had a lot of fun in sport, but one of my best sporting journeys was when my time as president of the Canterbury Rugby Supporters Club. I've always loved rugby. I'm never good at it, but I love rugby. But it gave me a journey in rugby that I met all the top rugby players in New Zealand and around the world. So, and some of the great administrators, and that was all very special. And I got to know Colin Meads very well from that. And I'm name dropping now, but they're just part and parcel. And some of the greats of Otago rugby I got to know. So that was all special. So it was a very special journey for me.
Well, can I ask you the obvious question? I mean, it's a rite of passage in this country, isn't it, to take your kids to a rugby game? Buy the hot dogs or the chips at halftime or whatever. Sit down in the stadium. It's almost part of what it is to be a Kiwi, or certainly for our generation anyhow. Do you think that the pricing of tickets might militate against that, particularly at Super Rugby level?
I think you're going to have a honeymoon period because the stadium, I'm in Christchurch at the moment, and tell you what, looking from the outside, the stadium looks so impressive. So there'll be a honeymoon period where people will want to go along to a game to be part of the atmosphere of a brand new stadium.
Yeah.
And that'll be good. But then I'll think, well, it's going to get more expensive to get to. So I think, well, see the kids, look, you happy watching it at home, I'll take you to one game next year. So, it's just one of those things that I think with modern day life and modern day sport and professional sport that, things have changed. So we've got to move on and accept that once the honeymoon's over, maybe the prices won't be through the roof. Wellington, they're realistic. Auckland, they're realistic. Otago, they're more realistic. So, I just think one of those things that part and parcel, that something new out there, so why not we cream it while we can?
It always seemed to me that the moment they started changing the names of the iconic sporting grounds, like, for example, you mentioned Lancaster Park, which was internationally famous for being a rugby ground. Then it suddenly became Jade Stadium. Do you remember that?